iPhone 5s.
iPhone 5s is a high-end smartphone developed by Apple Incorporated. It is part of the iPhone line, and was released on September 20, 2013. Apple held an event to formally introduce the high-range phone, and its mid-range counterpart, the iPhone 5C, on September 10, 2013. As with the principle of the iPhone 3GS and iPhone 4S, the iPhone 5S is a revised version of its predecessor, iPhone 5. The phone maintains a very similar design to its predecessor, aside from the introduction of a new home button design using a laser-cut sapphire cover surrounded by a metallic ring, Touch ID, a fingerprint recognition system built directly into the home button which can be used to unlock the phone and authenticate Store and iTunes Store purchases, and an updated camera with a larger aperture and a dual LED flash optimized for different color temperatures. It also introduced the A7 dual-core processor, the first 64-bit processor to be used on a smartphone, accompanied by the M7 Motion coprocessor, a dedicated processor for processing motion data from its accelerometer and gyroscopes without requiring the attention of the main processor. It was also the first Apple device to ship with the newest version of the iOS mobile operating system, iOS 7, which introduced a revamped visual appearance and other new features. Reception towards the device was generally positive, with some outlets considering it to be the best smartphone available on the market due to its upgraded hardware, Touch ID, and other changes introduced by iOS 7. However, others criticized iPhone 5s for being too similar to its predecessors, while others showed security concerns about the Touch ID system. iPhone 5s, along with iPhone 5C, sold 9 million units on their weekend of release, breaking Apple's sales record for iPhones. iPhone 5s was the best-selling phone on all major U.S. carriers in September 2013.
History.
Before its official unveiling, media speculation primarily centered around reports that the next iPhone would include a fingerprint scanner. Including Apple's July 2012 acquisition of Authentic, a developer of mobile security products, references to a fingerprint sensor on the home button in the beta release of iOS 7 and leaked packaging for an iPhone 5s showing that the traditional home button now had a metallic ring around it. Similar ring-based imagery was seen on the official invite to Apple's iPhone press event in September 2013, where the new device was unveiled. Shortly before its official unveiling, The Wall Street Journal also reported the rumor. Apple announced iPhone 5C and iPhone 5s during a media event at its Cupertino headquarters on September 10, 2013. While iPhone 5C became available for pre-order on September 13, 2013, iPhone 5s was not available for pre-order, however was released on the same day as the 5C, September 20, 2013. While most of the promotion focused on Touch ID, the 64-bit Apple A7 was also a highlight during the event. Schiller then showed demos of Infinity Blade 3 to demonstrate the A7's processing power and the device's camera using untouched photographs. The release of iOS 7 on September 18, 2013, was also announced during the keynote. On September 20, 2013, iPhone 5s was released in the United States, United Kingdom, Canada, China, France, Germany, Australia, Japan, Hong Kong, and Singapore. It was released in 25 additional countries on October 25, 2013, and in 12 countries on November 1, 2013. Indonesia was the last country to receive the iPhone 5s with its release date being the 26th January 2014.
Features. Operating system and software.
The iPhone 5s features iOS, Apple's mobile operating system. The user interface of iOS is based on the concept of direct manipulation, using multi-touch gestures. Interface control elements consist of sliders, switches, and buttons. Interaction with the OS includes gestures such as swipe, tap, pinch and reverse pinch, all of which have specific definitions within the context of the iOS operating system and its multi-touch interface. Internal accelerometers are used by some applications to respond to shaking the device, One common result is the undo command, or rotating it vertically. One common result is switching from portrait to landscape mode. iPhone 5s is supplied with iOS 7, released on September 20, 2013. Jonathan Ive, the designer of iOS 7's new elements, described the update as bringing order to complexity, highlighting features such as refined typography, new icons, translucency, layering, physics, and gyroscope-driven parallaxing as some of the major changes to the design. The design of both iOS 7 and OS X Mavericks, version 10.9 noticeably depart from skeuomorphic elements such as green felt in Game Center, wood in newsstand, and leather in calendar, in favor of flat, colorful design. The phone can act as a hotspot, sharing its internet connection over Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, or USB, and also accesses App Store, an online application distribution platform for iOS developed and maintained by Apple. The service allows users to browse and download applications that were developed with Xcode in the iOS SDK and were published through Apple. iOS 7 adds AirDrop, an ad hoc Wi-Fi sharing platform. Users can share files with the iPhone 5 onwards, the iPod Touch, 5th generation, iPad, 4th generation, or iPad mini. The operating system also adds Control Center, which gives iOS users access to commonly used controls and apps. By swiping up from any screen including the lock screen, users can do such things as switch to airplane mode, turn Wi-Fi on or off, adjust the display brightness and similar basic functions of the device. It also includes a new integrated flashlight function to operate the reverse camera's flash LED as a flashlight. The iPhone 5s functions as a media player, and includes Apple Maps and Passbook. The mapping application includes turn-by-turn navigation, spoken directions, 3D views in some major cities and real-time traffic. Users can rotate their device horizontally to landscape mode to access a collage of album covers. The 5s includes Siri, an intelligent personal assistant and knowledge navigator. The application uses a natural language user interface to answer questions, make recommendations, and perform actions by delegating requests to a set of web services. Apple claims that the software adapts to the user's individual preferences over time and personalizes results. iOS 7 adds new male and female voices, new system setting functionalities, a redesign to match the rest of the operating system, and integration with Twitter, Wikipedia, Bing, and Photos. Facebook comes integrated through Apple's native apps. Facebook features can be directly accessed from within native apps such as Calendar, which can sync Facebook events, or use Facebook's Like button from within the Apple App Store. iTunes Radio, an internet radio service, is also included on iPhone 5s. It is a free, ad-supported service available to all iTunes users, featuring Siri integration on iOS. Users are able to skip tracks, customize stations, and purchase the station's songs from iTunes Store. Users can also search through their history of previous songs.
Design.
The iPhone has minimal hardware user interface, featuring 5 buttons. The only physical menu button is situated directly below the display, and is called the Home button, because it closes the active app, accesses Touch ID, and navigates to the home screen of the interface. The device maintains a similar design to iPhone 5, with a 4-in, 10 cm, LCD touchscreen, with a screen resolution of 640x1136 at 326 ppi. However, its home button has been updated with a new flat design using a laser-cut sapphire cover surrounded by a metallic ring. The button is no longer concave, nor does it contain the familiar squircle icon seen on previous models. The phone itself is 0.30 in, 7.6 mm, thick and weighs 112 grams, 4.0 ounces. The phone uses an aluminum composite frame. The device is available in 3 color finishes. Space gray, replacing black with slate trim, white with silver trim, and white with gold trim.
Hardware.
iPhone 5s is powered by the new Apple A7 system on chip, which the company claimed was the first 64-bit processor ever used on a smartphone, with the pre-installed iOS 7 operating system and its pre-loaded apps being optimized for 64-bit mode, promising increased performance. Performance may be negligible at release without the developers updating their apps. The A7 processor is manufactured by Samsung, and is accompanied by a new M7 Motion coprocessor, a dedicated processor for processing motion data from its accelerometer and gyroscopes without requiring the attention of the main processor, which integrates with iOS 7's new Core Motion APIs. The M7 Motion coprocessor will help to improve battery life of iPhone 5s by keeping away motion-related tasks from the main CPU. The phone includes a 1570 mAh battery, which provides 10 hours of talk time and 250 hours of standby time. The battery is not meant to be removed. As a consequence, in the event of a failure, customers are obliged to seek Apple support. While the camera is still 8 megapixels in resolution with the image capture size of 3264x2448, the lens has a larger aperture, f/2.2, and larger sized pixels in its image sensor than previous iPhone models, and has dual True Tone flashes, consisting of an amber LED and a white LED, which are variably used based on the color temperature of the photo to improve color balancing. The camera also includes automatic image stabilization, dynamic tone mapping, 10 fps burst mode, best shot mode, and slow motion video at 120 fps. The home button on iPhone 5s incorporates a fingerprint recognition system known as Touch ID, based on technology from Authentic, a company which Apple had acquired in 2012. The sensor uses a capacitive CMOS-based sensor which can detect the subepidermal layers of fingers at 500 pixels per inch, and uses a 360-degree design that can read the print at any angle. The sensor itself is activated by a touch-sensitive metallic ring surrounding the button. Touch ID can be used for various authentication activities within the operating system, such as unlocking the device or authenticating App Store and iTunes purchases instead of an Apple ID password. The sensor can be trained to recognize the fingerprints of multiple fingers and multiple users. Fingerprint data is stored in an encrypted format within a secure enclave of the A7 chip itself, and is not accessible to any other apps or servers, including iCloud. Several problems were experienced with iPhone 5s's hardware after its release. The most widely reported issue is that the angle reported by the phone's level sensor had drifted by several degrees, so that the gyroscope, compass, and accelerometer and reports suggested that this is a hardware-induced problem. Some encountered other problems like blue screen of death, the power button making a rattling noise when the phone was shaken, overheating, the microphone not working, and Touch ID not working for iTunes purchases. However, some of these issues had been fixed by software updates already.
Accessories.
Earphones known as Apple Earpods are included with iPhone 5s. According to technology commentators, the design of the earphones is aimed to improve sound quality by allowing air to travel in and out more freely. Apple states that the design of their earphones allows it to rival high-end headphones that cost hundreds of dollars more. Reviews by Gizmodo and TechRadar reported that although the earphones sounded better than its predecessor, reviewers felt that quality of sound produced is poor. TechRadar further opined that the Earpods are inferior to other earphones of a similar price.
Exterior official accessories.
Apple announced during the keynote a case for iPhone 5s that it was made of soft microfiber on the inside and leather on the outside. This case was announced along with iPhone 5c's case, both of which are the first cases Apple has announced since the iPhone 4 bumpers. Docks for both iPhone 5s and 5c were found on the Apple Online Store after the announcement. Because of the casing difference between the iPhone 5s and 5c, they have separate docks, each made specifically for each respective phone. This is also the first time Apple has released a new dock since the iPhone 4 dock back in 2010.
Reception. Critical reception.
iPhone 5s received critical acclaim from reviewers and commentators. Walt Mossberg of All Things Digital gave the phone a favorable review, saying that Touch ID sounds like a gimmick, but it's a real advance, the biggest step ever in biometric authentication for everyday devices, and labeled it the best smartphone on the market. David Pogue of the New York Times praised Touch ID, but said that the innovation of the smartphone market has been saturated, and maybe the age of annual mega leaps is over. He focused much of his review on iOS 7, which he believed was the biggest change of the device over previous generations, eulogizing new Siri features, Control Center, and AirDrop. In an editorial, Pogue stated that iOS 7 was the biggest change in the iPhone series, citing utilitarian interface changes as the main contributor to this. Miriam Joyer of Engadget found that the iPhone 5s could benefit significantly from the A7 if developers created applications optimized for the 64-bit processor, and said that iOS 7 was the most notable update of the release. Darrell Etherington of TechCrunch also thought that iPhone 5s was the best smartphone available. He said looks may not be different from the iPhone 5, but the internal components have a dramatic impact on day-to-day activities normal for a smartphone user, and went into detail explaining the impact of the improved camera and specifications on the phone, and argues that the 64-bit A7 processor will not reach its full potential until developers create applications supporting it. Scott Stein of Connect said that although iPhone 5s is not a required upgrade, but it's easily the fastest and most advanced Apple smartphone to date. He criticized the lack of design change over iPhone 5. Anand Lal Shimpi of Anand Tech praised the phone's A7 processor, describing it as seriously impressive, and stated that it was the most future-proof of any iPhone ever launched. As much as it pains me to use the word future-proof, if you are one of those people who likes to hold on to their device for a while, the iPhone 5s is as good a starting point as any. Scott Lowe of IGN praised the 5S as being one of the best-looking, most well-constructed smartphones on the market, also speaking highly of his 64-bit processor, which has a substantial lead in processing power over the HTC One and Samsung Galaxy S4, accounting for a graphics boost of up to 32% and 38% in CPU benchmarks. Criticism was directed towards the fingerprint scanner as well as the battery life of the 5S. Another criticism was directed towards software bugs, but felt that they were owed to a lack of patch support for the A7 64-bit architecture or lingering issues with iOS 7, but in either scenario, should be resolved easily with future updates. Apple's share price fell 5.4% after the launch to close at a month low of $467.71 on the Nasdaq. Although reviewers praised the new iPhone for its camera, 64-bit A7 chip, M7 motion chip, and fingerprint scanning capabilities, some investors thought that the iPhone 5s, although a notable improvement over the 5, was still relatively unchanged from its predecessor, and worried that the iPhone line had become a stagnant, dull product.
Commercial reception.
iPhone 5s and 5c sold over 9 million units in the first 3 days, which sets a record for first weekend smartphone sales, with the 5s selling 3 times more units than iPhone 5c. After the first day of release, 1% of all iPhones in the US were iPhone 5s's, while 0.3% were iPhone 5cs. Gene Munster of Piper Jaffray reported that the line at the Fifth Avenue Apple Store contained 1,417 people on release day, compared to 1,300 for the iPhone 4 in 2010, and 549 for the iPhone 3G in 2008 on their respective release days. This was the first time that Apple has simultaneously launched 2 models. The first-day release in China also contributed to the record sales result. iPhone 5s was the best-selling phone on AT&T, Sprint, Verizon, and T-Mobile in September 2013 in the United States, outselling the 5C and Samsung Galaxy S4. According to consumer intelligence research partners, iPhone 5s outsold the 5C by a 2-to-1 margin during its September release, confirming Tim Cook's view that the high-end smartphone market was not reaching a point of market saturation. While commentators viewed iPhone 5C as a flop because of supply chain cuts signifying a decline in demand, iPhone 5s was viewed as a massive success. Tim Cook opined in response, "I suggest it's good to question the accuracy of any kind of rumor about build plans. The supply chain is very complex, and we have multiple sources for things. There is an inordinate long list of things that can make any single data point not a great proxy for what is going on." On launch day, major stock shortages were reported in most stores, across all countries where iPhone 5s initially went on sale. A great many customers in line outside Apple stores worldwide were left disappointed due to severe shortages across all 5S models, with the Gold model in particular being in highly limited supply. While this situation eased in the US in the days following the launch, other countries have reported receiving very little restocks. Some commentators have questioned how Apple have handled the initial release, as online pre-orders were not offered for iPhone 5s, meaning large numbers of people queuing outside physical stores, with most in line not receiving a unit. In the US, Apple has offered an online reservation system, so customers can keep checking units available at their local Apple stores, and order for pickup. Online orders have also been in short supply on launch day, with the shipping date across all model sizes and colors, changing from 7 to 10 working days to sometime October in all countries, within hours of online orders being taken. The Gold variant was in a great demand. 6 months after the release of the iPhone 5s, on March 25, 2014, Apple announced that sales of the iPhone brand has crossed 500 million units.
Touch ID impact.
A number of technology writers, including Adrian Kingsley Hughes and Kevin Roos of New York, believe that the fingerprint scanning functionality of iPhone 5s could help spur the adoption of the technology as an alternative to passwords by mainstream users, especially in bring-your-own-device scenarios, as fingerprint-based authentication systems have only enjoyed wider usage in enterprise environments. However, citing research by biometrics engineer Jeppy Paziale, Roos suggested that the CMOS-based sensor could become inaccurate and wear out over time unless Apple had designed the sensor to prevent this from occurring. Brent Kennedy, a researcher of the United States Computer Emergency Readiness Team, recommended that users not immediately rely on the technology, citing the uncertainty over whether the system could properly reject a spoofed fingerprint. Following the release of iPhone 5s, the German Chaos Computer Club announced on September 21, 2013 that they had bypassed Apple's new Touch ID fingerprint sensor by using easy everyday means. The group explained that the security system had been defeated by photographing a fingerprint from a glass surface and using the captured image as verification. The spokesman for the group stated, "We hope that this finally puts to rest the illusions people have about fingerprint biometrics. It is plain stupid to use something that you can't change and that you leave everywhere every day as a security token." However, in 2013, 39% of American smartphone users used no security measures at all to protect their smartphone.
Timeline of models.